Hello learners, today we are going to discuss about BPCC 103, that is Psychology of Individual Differences, and today we are just going to discuss about block 3, that is Indian Thoughts in Psychology. So we have seen this in this BPCC 103. There are 5 blocks and there are total 10 units. So unit 1 we had already discussed about the personality and individual differences. Unit 2 we had discussed about the assessment of personality, various tools, objective and projective techniques we had discussed. Then in Unit 3, we had discussed about the concepts of intelligence and emotional intelligence. And we have discussed about the bachelor's definition of intelligence is the most suitable definition. In Unit 4, we had discussed about the theories of intelligence. Various theories will define the concepts of intelligence. In Unit 5, we have discussed about how to assess intelligence and various tests to be used for assessing intelligence. So we had Western tests and the Indian tests also, and we had certain Indian adaptation of foreign tests. And Unit 6 we had discussed about the aptitude, concepts and measurement. And today we are going to discuss about the Unit 7, differences between Indian and Western psychology. And in our next class, we'll discuss about the concept of self in Indian thoughts, motivation, and creativity. So, we'll see the what is the difference between Indian and Western psychology. And in 1 hour, we are going to just find out are they same or different. If they are different, how it is different, and what is Indian psychology. So in this unit, today we are going to discuss about the introduction, Indian psychology, meaning, nature and scope, historical sources and development, as a understanding Indian psychology, and differences between Indian and Western psychology. And in the last part of the discussion, we'll talk about the importance of yoga, meditation, and other indigenous systems. So what you will learn by attending today's discussion? So it's like to explain you will be able to explain the historical background of the development of Indian psychology, meaning and the scope of Indian psychology. You will be able to appreciate the contemporary relevance of Indian psychology in global context, and to describe the fundamental differences between Indian and Western psychology. And after listening this lecture, you will be understand the importance of yoga, meditation, and other indigenous systems. So most of the theories in Indian psychology are based on three major traditions, that is Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. And the nature of consciousness, self, and mental activities are considered as part of religious and spiritual teaching and practices. They are viewed either as religious or as philosophical. So, in if we talk about the Indian psychology, so it is basically rooted in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. And we'll discuss in detail about these all three things. So, what is Indian psychology, meaning, nature, and scope? So, the term Indian psychology in contemporary literature has different meanings. It is either described in terms of spiritual views and sociocultural views. So, psychology in India is basically academic and professional status of psychology discipline in India. So, if we talk about like the psychology in India, so it means that it's academic and professional status of psychology discipline in India. If we call about the Indian psychological thoughts, it means the psychological insights that are available in the scholarly literature produced by thinkers in the Vedic, Jaina, and Buddha tradition. So then we call it Indian psychological thoughts if they are based on Vedic, Jaina, or Buddhism. If we call it psychology with an Indian identity, it means the terms like Vedic psychology, Buddhist psychology, yoga psychology, Hindu psychology, and Jain psychology, and Dravidian psychology has been used by some authors, and these are part of Indian thought traditions and reflect Indianness. So all these psychology were rooted in developed in our country. That's why it's called psychology within Indian identity. So psychology developed around the philosophy of an Indian thinker. So like foundations of a school in psychology is led by the philosophical vision of one particular individual. For example, integral psychology was inspired by the integral vision of Maharshi Sri Aurobindo. So it is the integrated various aspects of psychology by Arabic. Psychology of Indian people. So some psychologists adhere to socio-cultural viewpoint, primarily emphasize on understanding the behavior of Indian masses, and they may use Western ideas and methods also to understand psychology of Indian people. So what Indian psychology is not. So Indian psychology is not the indigenous psychology of a specific group or tribe living in India. So it is not reflecting just one particular community or society or religion. It's like the as a whole. So like Hinduism or Jainism or Buddhism, it was spread all over the India, not only in India, in various other countries. But it is generated in India. It is not indigenizing psychology, which means to adapt Western psychological theories and models to suit the Indian context. So it is not like the adaptation of Western psychology for Indians. It's not. It is not limited to the people living within the geographical boundaries of India. As I told you, it is the Indian psychology is spread all over the world, like Buddhism was all over the Asian countries. While it helps to understand the behavior of Indian masses, it is not the psychology of Indian people. So let us see the indigenization of psychology. Indigenization of psychology calls for rendering the basic concepts, theories, and models and measures of modern psychology suitable to a local socio-cultural context. The spirit of developing universal laws and principles is accepted. Culture is the target, and those who advocate indigenization strongly hold on the idea of scientific psychology that aims at universal laws and principles. Let us see the various historical sources and development sources for Indian psychology. Like S.K. Ramchandra Rao wrote in his classical book Development of Psychological Thoughts in India in 1962 that though the study of mind was not an independent branch of knowledge in ancient time, in India there was enough psychologizing. Other specific subjects were also there, for instance, Jyotish Shastra, Arth Shastra, Natya Shastra, Dharma Shastra, highlighting many psychological concepts. So we'll discuss in brief about these concepts like Jyotish Shastra is talking about the future, whatever you are doing now, how it affect your future. Arth Shastra is basically the understanding the economics. Natya Shastra is basically understanding the arts and dance and the Dharma Shastra is basically duties, what are your duties and how to live the life. Many of the ancient texts are also in different languages, like Vedic Sanskrit, then Sanskrit, then Pali, then Prakrit, and Ardhamagathi. So, like almost all Vedas, Upanishads, and Purans, they are written in Vedic Sanskrit or Sanskrit, whereas Buddhist literatures, they were written in either Pali or Prakrit. So this literature grew further immensely in scholarship and volume in the age of darshanas. System Darshana means philosophy, systems of Indian philosophy, and in medieval and modern times. So we have in Indian psychology or philosophy, you can say there are six darshans. So Swami Vivekananda brought together all the ideas related to yoga and wrote his sutras to help go beyond all states of consciousness to reach what is called Kaivalya, that is also called moksha. Yeah. He has termed it as practical psychology. Patanjali aimed at transformation of a person to realize his true nature or identity as witness. It is a manual for self-realization. So basically, Patanjali focuses more on the yoga. So as I told you, there are six philosophy darsanas in Indian psychology or philosophy. These are Sankhya, Nyaya, Sankhya Yoga, Vaisheshik Yoga, Nyaya Yoga, then Vedanta. So there are six various yogas. Under this yoga, Patanjali Yoga is one of the way to explain the philosophy or life. So then development of Indian psychology. So in introduction of psychology in University of Calcutta started in 1906. This was the first time in our country. And Bharatiya Manashastra or Manas Shastra, that is the Sanskrit or Hindi equivalent of Western psychology. So the term was used that time, Bharatiya Manas Shastra or Bharatiya Manas Shastra. So many scholars use the term Indian psychology since the beginning of the 20th century. Some other scholars authored books under the title Buddhist psychology, Hindu psychology, and Jain psychology. The collection of all diverse viewpoints in Indian psychology in three volumes: Indian psychology, cognition, Indian psychology, emotion, and will and Indian psychology, epistemology of perception. Jadunath Sinha. And attempts to develop Indian psychology was viewed as a regressive movement going back to superstitions in 1980s. So this is basically paradox. Like the psychology was growing, but the way some of the people interpreting Indian psychology as a regressive movement. It is like going back because every solution or every symptoms try to look into the past and black people attempt to see the how Vedas or other things have explained such systems, such symptoms or such disease or the treatment modalities. So everything was tried to look back into the past. So that's why it was considered as a regressive movement. However, this was not true. So Andhra Pradesh University called Andhra University published a Journal of Indian Psychology for a few decades, then it was discontinued. A sudden spurt in Indian psychology since year 2001 onwards, because people ultimately realize that yes, there are many things already in our Vedas or Buddhism or Jainism. So we must utilize those things because people are very much attached to those things, so it can be utilized for their betterment. A few important publications include A Systematic Survey of Indian Psychology by Srivastava, Perspectives on Indigenous Psychology by Mishra and Mohanty, and Handbook of Indian Psychology by Rao, Paranjape, and Dalal. Now let us see the difference between Indian and Western psychology. Colco Rivera defined the term worldview as a way of describing the universe and life within it, both regarding what is and what ought to be. So, worldview has already been mentioned in many ways in Western psychology. Three main features of a worldview. A given worldview is a set of beliefs that includes limiting statements and assumptions regarding what exists and what does not, and what objects or experiences are good or bad, or what objectives, behavior, and relationship are desirable or undesirable. So, a worldview defines what can be known or done in the world and how it can be identified or done, what goals can be sought in life, and what goals should be pursued. So, the worldview defines how to know this world, how to identify or can be done, and what are the goals should be there in the life, and how to achieve these goals. So, worldviews include assumptions that may be unproven and even unprovable. Right? So, you can't prove or and it has not been proved. For example, God is there or not. So it has not been proved and it can't be proved because it is a matter of faith, belief. But these assumptions are superordinate and they provide the epistemic and ontological foundations for other beliefs within a belief systems. So such beliefs basically explains about the how the world created, how the people, how the life came on the earth, like Indian worldwide view, that is darsanas and dharma. Indian culture is characterized by a spiritual worldview, there is no doubt, and two terms, darshan and dharma, are used in India. They are grounded in the spiritual experiences of ancient seers and saints, Hindu, Jain, and Buddha darshana, and dharma form the foundations of Indian psychological thoughts. So, what is, as I told you, there are six darshan, and like Nyaya darshan, Yoga darshan, Sankhya darshan, Vaisheshik darshan, Mimamsa darshan, and Vedanta darshan. So, Nyaya darshan is basically like based on the way of living life, what is right and wrong, and yoga darshan is how to live the life, what are the yogas can be done. So yoga means like how to connect yourself with the god, supreme power. So in almost all Indian philosophy, this was highlighted that the person should strive to connect oneself with the god or supreme power. And the dharmas are like different stages or duties of the person. So they have to follow certain dharma at different stages of the life. So there are. It was divided into four stages of the life. For example, Balyavastha, then Kishoravastha, then adulthood, and then old age. So the stages according to this is And so for up to adolescent, it was considered as a brahmacharya ashram. So during this stage of life, uh, persons should follow celibacy, should focus on the religion and the duties. For example, for the student, they should focus on the study, and they should develop certain extracurricular activities like sports activities, archery, like anything they can develop. So this is considered as brahmacharya ashram. Then grihastha ashram. In grihastha ashram, the person they get married, they have children. So they are engaged in upbringing of their children, and then they are, because by that time their parents are getting older, so they focus on their parents also. They are engaged in the um, taking care of their elderly parents. So this is called Grihasthashram. In Grihasthashram also there are so many social and moral obligations which the Grihastha has to fulfill. Like if there is some function, some occasion, or something bad happened in the distant relative, so this is the duty of the Grihastha to go and take part on those activities in events. That way it was defined as Grihasthashram, and it was considered as the most difficult part of the stage, because during the brahmacharya there are no stressors, nothing is there. You have to just follow your duty. If you are a student, you have to follow. Like in earlier days, the disciples were staying with the gurus in their kutia huts, so they were doing lots of other work other than studying the Vedas and Puranas and Upanishads. So now the system is totally different. So in those systems, like they were not only studying with their gurus, they were studying. So they were learning so many life skills, how to survive in a difficult circumstances. So if they are Kshatriya or belong to the king family, so they should learn how to fight, how to survive, how to reign the state, how to become a good king. So they were to teach such skills called life skills, and for others like those who were mm, interested in the study, so they were taught how to understand the meanings of the Vedas and Upanishads. So they become master of this interpretation of those religious books. So like it was called in a Sanskrit Sarvangini Vikas. So overall development of the disciple was the main focus during those days. So now also Western in Western culture they have started in Western countries, they have started focusing on the overall growth of the child. But now we have forgotten about this thing, and now every parents are behind the child to get good marks, and no one is focusing on the overall development of the child. So this is the like it must be rethink by the parents that why they are just focusing on the marks. There might be certain reasons like good marks will get good position, the child may crack entrance, may get good admission in certain courses, or may get good job. Those things are there. But as we had discussed in emotional intelligence, can like if you have a high IQ, you are a high achiever, but you are not very comfortable in your position. You are not very comfortable in the office where you work. You are not very comfortable with your subordinates. You are not very comfortable with your boss. You are not very comfortable with your colleagues. It shows your emotional quotient is less. So why? Because you had only focused on the getting good marks, nothing else. So you have not learned certain life skills which are very much required for the survival, healthy survival of the person. So so that's why in ancient Indian time, uh, in almost all the darshanas, it was focused on the like overall growth of the child rather than just teaching the child to read and write or do calculations or get good marks. So that time also there was some competitions, those things, but the people are different for different things. So some of they train themselves to compete in reciting different mantras or chanting different slokas from the Vedas, whereas certain were mm, participating in the archery competitions or some sports activity. Uh, so such type of like everyone was engaged in more than one type of task. Now our students they are just focusing on study and they disregard the other aspect of life study and most of them are focusing on the media, social media, mobile, laptop, tablet. So they are engaged in WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and several other things. So that's why the all Indian saints like Jainism, Buddhism, or Hinduism, they focus on the darshan. They talk about the darshanas and dharma. They were not developing any other deviation from those things written in the Vedas or different Upanishads or Gita or Ramayana. They were not deviating them. They were just interpreting those things to the general public. So that's why the saints were regarded more because they made those difficult things easy for understanding to the people who are not very, uh, they have not understood those things earlier or they have not read those Vedas and this Gita earlier. So some important differences between Indian and Western psychology. Like Indian psychology more focusing on human nature and the way Western psychology define human nature is totally different the way Indian psychology define human nature. In Indian psychology, human nature is like it's like having so many things in human nature, not only just one aspect of personality, overall personality. Then there is a difference in defining life and death in Indian psychology. In Western psychology, they are not much talked about life and death, and however, they have talked about the grief and other things and like still in at the age of 60 or 70 people western people say I am still young. Okay, but according to Indian Vedas and Indian psychology, life to live is a duty. Okay, because it is considered as God has given us life to do certain things as per our stages, as per our requirement. So we have to live the life. We are not to decide when to end our life. It's clearly mentioned in almost all uh, Indian religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. No one is supposed to end their life. However, there are certain process like when you have, as I have discussed about the like brahmacharya ashram, grihastha ashram, then another ashram is uh, sannyas ashram where the person just do certain religious works or teaches others or becomes sannyasi. And the fourth stage of that is vanprasthashram, where the person leaves the people, leaves the country and goes to into forest and live there or on a hill or mountain and or caves. So they end their life there. So it's like beautifully explained in our religion that how to live the life. So it's that if you are in brahmacharya ashram, your duty is different. Like you have to study, you have to learn several life skills, you have to respect elders, you have to respect your teachers, you have to respect your parents, you have to obey them. Everything is clearly mentioned there. When you become girhast, like in grihast ashram, so you have to take care of your partner, life partner, you have to take care of children, you have to take care of parents, you have to do uh, lots of things to make them happy, and you should be always, you should be also feel happy by doing this because you are doing your duty. Then in sannyas ashram, you are, because you have uh, completed your other things, duties. Your children are grown, and they are in job or they are doing certain things. They are earning their lives. They are married. They have their own children. So now you should focus on the, rather than feeling young and thinking that you are still can do lots of things at that stage, because you have completed your duty. So now your duty is to chanting mantras, engage yourself in religious activities, do some social works called sannyas ashram. And when you think that now nothing is left, you have done everything, and if you want to go to forest at that time, now it is not possible. So you can leave your family and stay alone in a cave or jungle or mountain. So so all these four stages of life, it's defined very beautifully in Indian religions, and it is like you have to live, you can't escape, you can't avoid those stages, and you have to do all sort of things which are required to live. And death as perceived as a cycle, it's not like end point. In Indian religion, even in Jainism, in Buddhism, in all philosophy, six philosophies of four Vedas and 18 Upanishads, everything, like death is a cycle. Like it's there is a Garur Puran where it's very clearly mentioned what happens after the person, and it's like cycle. So everyone talks about the cycle. So it's not that oh, finished, everything finished. So like whatever type of karma you have done in your life, after the death, you have to uh, see all those things. You have to face the consequences of all those karmas. So if your karmas are good, you might be having good things. If your karmas are bad, you might be having bad things. So in explaining that death is not like end of life, it's like cycle. Okay, now in this cycle, now you are moving to the other life. So like in one of the Vedas, it's clearly mentioned okay, how this cycle, like how the person become human being, and then how the things will, like when he become animal or insects, those things were clearly mentioned. So as Darwin has mentioned that we, our forefathers were chimpanzee or monkey or those things. So same way here also in Hindi religion, it was clearly mentioned about it's very difficult that if you died, like a human being died, so it's difficult to again get the human life. So there is a possibility that the person may get other animals alive. And here also they discuss about the Atma and Paramatma. Like those in Gita, it's clearly mentioned about the life and death. That those who do Nishkam karma means without any attachment. They do their work just to think that it is their duty and they must do. So they do not want praise, they do not want any reward for that. It's a different thing that they may get reward or praise, but they do not wish, they do not want. If I do this, I will get reward. If I do this work, my boss will say, "Well done, very good." They are not hungry for those type of thing. So it's called like Nishkam karma when you are doing work without wanting any fruits of those actions, without wanting any results of those actions. So such Nishkam karma, if the persons do, so then the person may get moksha. So there will be no, the person may break the cycle, so he will not go into the other life cycle. He will not take again birth because he got the moksha. And but maximum of us, it's very difficult for us to not to seek consequences. We are, some of us are so crazy for getting reward or other things. So sometimes if we do not get, we get angry. No, this was I should have been given this thing. Why I have been not given this? So such type of things it creates. Like if you see the office environment, most of the people, they are fighting just because they're gaining the credit of the work done by others, or whatever they have done. They think they have done lots of good thing, and the whole credit should be given to that person. So Nishkam karma is the karma which is done without thinking about the consequences, without having any attachment to that work and result. Still the person is doing because the person thinks this is his or her duty. So duty bound works without attachment are called Nishkam karma. So in different, like there is some in, like in Jainism there is a way to how to end your life. Like if you have completed all your duties, so there is no point of living. And if you can't do other duties, for example, if you are bedridden, if you can't walk, if you are if you have developed some illness like dementia or some other things. So the person has the right to decide to end his life, called Santara. So in that the people decide, but it is not for the working person. It is like when the person thinks he is not useful for the society, family, at that time only. It's called in Western psychology euthanasia. So doctors generally they withdraw the support system from the patient. Still, you will see that the many old people in our country, they do not want to die on hospital bed or on ventilator. They say, no, I have lived my life. Let me die peacefully. So that way, this is also practiced in our country. Still, some people are following this thing. So there is some difference between Indian and Western countries on goals and values of life. Like in our country, the goals of life is to get moksha and to break the life and death cycle. So that is the goal of the, and values are, the person should be helpful, the person should be engaged in social things, the person should like provide certain facilities to others, to do his duties. The person should be duty bound, and sometimes to the extent that they may neglect themselves also. Like if your children are hungry, you should not eat, you should feed your child first. If your parents are hungry and there is a small food, so first you have to feed your children, then your parents. If something is left, then you may have. So this is Indian philosophy. So here self-sacrifice is also there, whereas this is not considered as positive in Western psychology. Self-sacrifice is like it will give you distress, lots of distress. Like after some time you may feel that you are neglected, or you have not done good things, or you may have lots of grudges, because you may say that I have done this for that person, and when I was in need he has not done good for me. But here in Indian culture it was in the practice, and people were enjoying by sacrificing their things. So that is the difference between Indian and Western philosophy. In Western philosophy, the value of life is earning lots of money. That's why it is called materialistic society. It doesn't mean they do not have any goals, or they do not feel duty for their children or the parents. Nowadays, if you see, compare Western and Indian culture, so Western people are more duty bound. So they know what they have to do for their children, what they have to do for their parents. Whereas in our country, they are not so much dutiful. Some of the couple, they do not take care of their children well. They do not want their old age parents to live with them. So such things. So it's totally changed. But if you talk about the Indian psychology, it was clearly there because it was based on the Indian philosophy. So again, the Indian and Western psychology is different on consciousness and the states of consciousness. So there are various stages of consciousness. There are three stages. One is like when you are awake, when you are in dream, and when you don't have any, when you are unconscious. So it is in one of the one of the darshana called Vedanta darshana. It was clearly mentioned that the world and everything is like a dream. So you think that he is your father, she is your mother, is your child, daughter, wife, husband. So you think. But when you get the knowledge, when you got the gyan, then you will understand that all these things are like dream. Like when you get awake, then you realize, oh, it was dream. So when you get moksha, you will realize that all these things were dreamlike. They were not real. But still we have to do, because these are the duty must be done during this stage. So Indian psychology talks about consciousness, mind and mental activities more than the Western psychology. About human natures, like the traditions agree that humans have specific instinctual or biological needs for food, security, sexuality, and sleep like other animals. But a person can sublimate or conquer his or her basic needs, emotions, passions, and desires. He or she has the potentiality to actualize and transforms into a superhuman being who may be called divine or God. So, like the person can sublimate, like if the person is engaged in only earning money, so after some times the person may realize, what I will do with this money when I become old? It has no use. So why can't you do certain good work to teach someone, to help the needy, to feed someone who is hungry? So that way you can like conquer your own needs, emotions, and passions, desires. About life and death, Indian philosophy, as I told you, it's a cycle and a continuous process. Like death is not end of anything. It's like part of the cycle. Like so, all organisms pass through this cycle, including insects. So, bodily death is not the end of life force. It's called jiva. So, or we say that ki Atma never dies. So Atma remains alive all the time. So it's like the like changing clothes. Those the same way, the Atma changed the body. So now the Atma in the human body. Next time the same Atma will be in animal body. So the cumulative karma of the several lifetimes is the force that keeps the cycle of birth and death is going. So karma is the prime motivating factor for our actions. Humans can consciously choose to break this cycle in a particular life period and put an end of this process called moksha or liberation. So, like karma is the prime motivating factor for our actions. So we have to do the karma, and so if we do not do karma, so then it is like we have not done our duty well. So we'll get the in next birth cycle we'll get the different life which is not so enjoyable. And when we have done good karma, we may get good life. But this cycle will not be broken by the if we have desires attached to those karmas. Suppose if you want to do charity, but something is there in your corner of the heart that people should praise you. Oh, you are you have donated so much things, so many things. You have donated so much amount of rupees. Okay, so if these things, such things are there in your heart, corner of heart, it means karma is attached with the result, fal. Okay, so you will get fal. People will praise you. So the effect of karma finished. So the life cycle will keep on going. But when the karma is detached from the result, called nishkam karma, so at that time there will be no result of that karma. So if there is no result, then why you will take birth again? Because nothing to do. You have done your work, nothing left. No positive effect of karma, no negative effect of karma. So the example given in the Gita for such nishkam karma is like if you have seed, okay. So if you throw the seed in on earth, during the rainy season they will germinate, or if you pour some water they will germinate. Okay, the plant will be there, so you may have fruits then. But if you have seeds which may not germinate, like the seeds which you have cannot be germinated. Okay, so such seeds, if you have such seeds, so there will be no germination, no plant, no fruits, nothing. So our karma should be like that. It should be nishkam. So you should not feel anything out of your karma. You just think this is your duty and you have to do it. That's all. So, but in Western psychology, having been influenced by Darwinian evolutionary theory, treat humans as superior primates and see human as social animal bound to the nature and the process of evolution. Whereas in Indian psychology and philosophy, all animals are treated as equal because it is considered that the jiva is there in all the animals. So we should not take lives of others. The goals and values of life. So from ancient, it is called like Purusharth. So from ancient time, four life goals are recognized. Purusharth, what human being consciously chose to worth pursuing. They are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So for Dharma means the duty, Earth means like you need some money, some amount. Calm means you need some desires to do certain work. And moksha means you are now detached from all the things. So moksha is the most important or the highest or supreme or ideal goal of human existence. Hence it is called Parama Purushartha. So Param means supreme. Param Purushartha is the ideal goal for all human beings. So rather than focusing on getting praise, getting some reward, we should focus on how to get moksha, how to do our work without involved, without attaching, without so much attaching our emotions to that work. For example, if the parents they are rearing their son, okay, the son will help them in their old age. So if the son will not do certain things in old age, they will having pain. Oh, we have done so much for this child and he is not taking care of us. So such type of pain will be there if we have not understood the goals and values of our life. So we must know the all the four purushartha, dharma, arth, karma, and moksha. Then talking about consciousness and states of consciousness. Just one more thing, like in Western psychology, it's nowhere it's talked about the moksha, and it's like they focus on the karma and the result. So in modern psychology, only three states are accepted to define consciousness, that is waking, dream, and deep sleep states. Okay. So waking states, we usually recognize ourselves as the subject, person experiencing the world which is outside through our sensory organs and understanding them with the help of memory of past experiences and listening. So this is called waking. Like I am waking as of now. You are listening to my talk. That is in dream state. We are not in direct contact with the outside world, and hence sensory awareness is very limited to some light or sound or touch or temperature variations in the environment, but there is no perception of a physical world as such. So in dream state, as we see there are so many dreams during the night, and the deep sleep state, both the sensory awareness from outside and also the activities of mind stop functioning, and we are left with a feeling of peace and rest. So that is called deep sleep state. In Western psychology, they have also discussed about such things, but the interpretation is different. In the Upanishads, that is called Turiya Upanishad, the fourth state, in addition to Jagrat, waking avastha, Swapna avastha, dream, and Sushupti avastha, deep sleep. This Turiya avastha is like the Turiya is considered to be ever present, and we undergo all our experiences in the backdrop of this. So even though like we are waking in dream state, so but this Turiya Avastha will always be there. Not only that, it is also not personal, not dependent on our mental or bodily state. It is an independent awareness available to all and common to all. So consciousness is called a chit, chetana, chaitanya, pragyan. The mind is called as manas, chitta, antahkarana. So mental activities depend on consciousness for both illumination and energy. Manas is jada vastu, without life similar to physical matter. So So that way, the Indian psychology has defined these things in detail, whereas Western psychology is not so much emphasize these things. When a person dies, the consciousness and Jagrata Avastha and mental impressions together form Shak- Shaktrama and Karana Sharira and separate from the body and continues to exist in subtle form and take on a new shape and come to life again. Buddha rejects the idea of continuity of consciousness on transcendental awareness or Atman. Buddha proposed that consciousness is like a stream of water which is flowing and changing continuously. So, according to Buddha, consciousness is a stream of water which always flowing and changing continuously. Consciousness, mind, and mental activities. So both mind and body are constituted of the three gunas we know is well, sattva, rajas, and tamas guna. Um, so sattva is like you are up to the higher stage. Rajat is like when you have mixed emotions, and in tamas you are always engaged in certain illegal and other works, and your emotions are all negative, aggression, such type of things. So manas is also considered as an indriya. Indriya means sense organs, which experiences pleasure and pain, that desires, feels, and wills. Okay, in the Upanishadic literature, Manas is between sensory organs and another faculty called buddhi. So there is a buddhi, there is a sensory organs, and Manas work as a mediator between these. Now let us see the importance of yoga, meditation, and other indigenous systems. So this is last part of the presentation. So the United Nations declared 21st June as International Yoga Day on 11th December 14. Current understanding of popular yoga is often limited to practice of certain body postures, asanas, breathing exercise, pranayam, and meditation, dharana and dhyana. Yoga and meditation have been regarded as indigenous forms of therapy, and yoga is also regarded as a sports activities nowadays. In clinical psychology and allied mental health sciences, yoga and meditation are viewed as a stress reduction strategy, a therapeutic adjunct, and as a growth promotion technique, a technique to induce altered states of consciousness. Recently, yoga is also declared as a sports activity under the non-Olympic sports discipline by Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports Government of India. All these aspects have made yoga a multi-billion dollar business. So contemporary developments in the psychology discipline. So Western psychology discarded the viewpoint of spirituality and considered it as a orthodox, like going back to the Stone Age. In Asian societies, spiritual is still retained. An American researcher has gone a step further to assert that this so-called Americanized psychology does not even represent the full population of North Americans. It is just psychology developed for the studies on first year undergraduate students, and hence it is sophomore psychology. From a methodological point of view, many psychologists felt that procedures employed in psychology are nomothetic rather than ideographic. All these developments gradually led to what is known as indigenous psychology movement, like adapting psychology. In the 19th century, physical and natural scientists proposed that consciousness is primary, not matter in the universe. With this change of perspective, spiritual texts of Vedic tradition came in limelight, while transpersonal psychologists tried to explain phenomena like out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences on the basis of traditional aspects. And the psychology, the branch of psychology which studies this is called parapsychology. And a group of psychologists influenced by social constructivism argue that since culture and psyche are integrally related, it is impossible to develop universal psychological concepts, theories, models, and principles. They argue for developing culture-specific psychologies. And sensory organs receive impressions from the external worlds, Manas process and submitted Buddhi for its decision. Buddhi borrows the light of consciousness for its functioning. And Buddhi is also added by Chitta, which is a storehouse of all our past impressions and knowledge, and hence it is called a memory bank. So we had studied about the Indian psychology, meaning nature, historical sources and development, differences between Indian and Western psychology, and the importance of yoga, meditation, and other indigenous systems. Thank you.